This program was first broadcast on Canterbury's access media station, Plains FM, and was made with the assistance of New Zealand On Air.
Hello, and welcome to Breaking Ground, a podcast about earth-moving machinery and people in the industry. I'm your host, Richard Clark, and I work for Terra, New Zealand's cat machinery dealer. In this podcast, we hear stories from a wide range of people in our industry, and today, our guest, Mack Plovie, has come all the way from Canada. Mack is the dirt enthusiast and CEO behind Earthmovers Media, which has quite the social media following on all things mining, earth moving and demolition. Welcome to the show, Mack, and welcome to New Zealand.
I appreciate you having me here, and I appreciate you making time. And I want to lead off by saying thank you for your help with organizing our visits. I attribute the success of our trip to your efforts and your team efforts with helping us organize visits with mining customers, forestry customers. So thank you, and great to be here. I'm usually on the other end of the mic talking, so this is good.
Exactly, and we'll get into a bit of that sort of content creation and those sort of things that you do on a regular basis, all of the time. Mm-hmm. A little bit later on. So we're looking forward to Mack sharing a few stories from his experiences in the industry. And I suppose, Mack, to start off, first of all, tell us why you're in New Zealand.
Well, it's actually interesting how this trip started. So my good friend Chad and I, we both kind of love bulldozers, as you do. And he sent me a brochure. So before it was Terra, it was Goff.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So he sent me a brochure. There was a D11, D10, and a D9 chip dozer in Port of Tauranga.
Yes.
Tauranga. And he says, you got to check this out. And it's D11R with it. We calculated it out. It was like a 200 cubic yard chip blade. It just looked like a baseball glove on the front of the thing. And I was like, I told him, I said, where is this? I looked up Goff, and I couldn't find nothing. And then I found a link to where it was Terra. And I was like, New Zealand. I was like, wow, I got to go see this thing. Like, why wouldn't you want to go see a D11 with the biggest blade in the world?
Of course.
So that's how it started. And I found out later, reaching out to yourself and a few others, that the D11 was sold to Australia. The blade was scrapped. The whole chip pile that business had ceased. So I found a video and reshared it on my Instagram. And I said, a bit of the history on the dozer, a bit of the spec, was planning to come see it, but heard it's scrapped and it's all gone. And then I got a message from a guy at CNR Developments. He says, oh, mate, as you do, oh, mate, are you still coming down to New Zealand? And I said, well, no, I never thought of it, because, what's New Zealand got? There's no mining there. It's just a little island. He's like, no. And he sent me some photos, and I was like, oh, we got to go. So
yeah, you're definitely talking to the right people if you're talking to the guys at CNR, that's for sure.
Good people there. So that's what started it. I started talking with CNR, and then they said, hey, you should really look elsewhere. There's other contractors that are mine. So I started piecing things together, reaching out to yourself. But it just started with purely an interest in a D11, and then we really assembled a schedule over 2 weeks of all the big contractors. I tried to get, if we're going to come, we're going to go. So that's how it started. For me in Canada, winter's cold, everything's frozen, not much client work. No one's really calling. So I was like, let's go somewhere tropical. Let's go learn something new. Let's go meet some new people, because that's one of the things I enjoy most, is meeting people. The equipment's cool, seeing how it's spec'd and how they move dirt, but it's the people behind it that are really interesting. But yeah, so it started with a D11, and then we just put a schedule together and kind of here we are. So we've seen a lot. We've really covered some ground. Yeah,
so you're on the back end of the 2 weeks now.
Yep.
Here in Christchurch. Tell us about how you started off in the North Island, and for the first week, and then second week down here in the South Island. So tell us how that first week was. Obviously, first time in New Zealand, and what have you been up to in that first week?
So we left Canada. Flew direct Vancouver, Auckland. It was snowing when we left, so we arrived and it was T-shirt weather, but I was dressed for snow, so that was a shock. But we started on the North Island. We had a bunch of visits with CNR, so we did a couple of the quarries. They're big, so they kind of have an all-round contract. They're big dirt movers, but they also do technical projects. So they'll do TSF, or tailing storage facilities, so real technical dam rays, but they also have like 5130s loading 777s and HD 785s, right? Like, so they cover both ends of the spectrum. So we went and visited a couple quarries, Windstones, Whitehall, and Hunua. I said that right?
Yeah, you did say that right.
So their kind of scope there is overburden removal, because Windstones is good at producing aggregate, not so good at moving overburden and knowing what to do with it. That's where the CNR boys are real good at that. So we visited a couple of those sites. We went to their museum, which absolutely blew me away.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, did not earmark enough time for that.
How long were you there for?
Almost 3 hours. I mean, we had a tour guide, I believe it was Steve, and that guy just knows everything about every car, every bulldozer, every truck. And I was like, it was a hot day, and it was like, okay, like, we were in the car museum. I was like, can we go see the D575? Like, can we go there? He's like, no, you got to look at this car and this motorcycle. But anyways, if anyone's coming, I recommend you reach out to them and go see the museum. It's an immaculate collection of classic cars, both Australian, North American muscle cars, New Zealand muscle cars, motorbikes, Formula One, NASCAR. And that's only one half of it. You go on the other half, you've got a 994, D575, beautifully preserved, 24H that was there that's now out working. That's another caveat. They sometimes can be convinced to put something in the museum to work. So the 24 grader's out working. We spent some time there. Again, beautiful facility. And then we spent some time with you guys, Terra in Rotorua. Saw some forestry, which was...
Yeah, I think you went out to see the guys at McCormick Logging.
Yep, McCormick. And then we did a dealer tour. Really cool. What was interesting, I was warned about this when we came. Some people were saying, when you come, like the OH&S regulations, the safety and stuff is really tight around here. I was like, oh, yeah, well, we got PPE, we're fine. We show up to McCormick and, this is just the standard. The client was there with the drug and alcohol test.
Oh, yes.
So we did a drug and alcohol test just to go on site to take photos. I mean, I agree with what they're doing. They're trying to make a safe workplace, but it just totally caught me off guard. I was like, oh, okay, we're doing a breathalyzer test and had no problem with it. Like, we'll pass it.
Is that a bit different to... back in North America in terms of that health and safety element?
Yeah, logging sites, you'd never see drug and alcohol testing. Mine sites, for sure. They're just a bit higher standard, but logging sites, no. Everyone just kind of runs around and does as they wish. In the bush, it's different. It's different out there.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Certainly the standards. It's a critical part of our industries here in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And good to hear that they were testing you as well. So tell us about the McCormick visit. You've obviously visited a lot of logging sites in Canada and in the States as well.
A little bit in the States. Not
so
the States.
Tell us about the differences that you sort of saw between, McCormick's operation and what you've seen before. Yeah,
I mean, I was doing a bit of background research on the region, and it's a plantation style of forestry. So they introduced
it's all Pinus radiata.
Radiata pine, and they also call it there's another name for it, but anyways, the radiata pine, they introduced it there. So I guess you could say we do have a plantation style model, but not so much to what New Zealand does. So it's a bit different. In terms of how it kind of works on the business side, in North America, at least in Canada and BC, the mill owns the timber rights and they contract out the logging. And I was learning in here, it's a private group that owns the timber, and then the mills just don't have anything really to do with it, and then the contractor's contracted by the landowner to then supply it to the mills. So it's a bit of a different model, but again, you're just harvesting trees. What was really neat to see is what you guys did with that 330. So they took a 330 GC construction excavator and converted it to a forestry excavator.
Yes.
A lot of stuff in North America, you're buying forestry stuff. You're not really converting. You get the odd road builder here and there, but this was a forestry or construction machine converted to forestry. So you had the high walk undercarriage, top carrier rollers, all the guarding on it, the different cab with the extra visibility and the glass. They lengthened the stick, and it had a hoe check on it, or a grapple. So, and again, all the grapple manufacturers down here are different. We got WBM and all that in Canada, but down here it's Woodsman and Ensign. Yeah. So again, same principle. You're harvesting timber. You're dragging it, you're sorting it, you're stacking it, but it's just two different countries. And what was neat is we kind of, in some, depends on the timber lot in BC, is we'll ship kind of full length logs. Like, we'll take the tops off, right? But we'll ship full length logs. Here it's all debarked and sized on site, and everything that leaves site is specific, and that's how it's going to go to the mill. But in Canada, it's like, just send the whole tree down there. Take the limbs off, and off she goes, right? So.
Yeah, it's interesting to say about that converted 330. We've, I suppose, in the last 10 years or so, we've seen a lot more purpose-built, forest machines in the cat space here in New Zealand. They've become very popular, but there's certainly still, some machines there that do get converted from a general construction machine into a forestry application. So.
It's cool to see that because, nothing against our cat dealers, but it's pretty rare. Everyone's just buying. If they're in logging or mining, they're buying that machine, and they might get some lights on it or something. But it's like there's very few dealers now that do upgrades like that and modifications like that to that extent. So, which is you're basically building a new machine almost at that point, which is cool. Yeah. So that definitely stuck out. The dedication you guys have to providing your customers with a solution. If they don't want to get into a dedicated forest machine, they already got something that they want to convert. So very cool in that regard. So it was a beautiful area. I enjoyed Rotorua. That's how you say it, Rotorua.
Yeah, Rotorua. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
A lot of rotos on the North Island.
Yeah, there are. What about, I suppose, just getting back to the CNR side of things, in terms of some of the machines that sort of caught your eye while you were with them, either at the museum or out actually working? Was there anything sort of that you sort of were interested in particularly?
This may sound like a curse word to you, but they run a lot of Komatsu stuff. But so what's neat is a lot of contractors in Canada, at least, it's all 777s, 773s. It's pretty rare to see like HD 785s, which is like a 777 kind of size, that size of truck. CNR loves their Komatsu stuff, as they do their Caterpillar stuff. So that was kind of neat to see a different spread of equipment, not just all Caterpillar out there.
Yes.
They do what's really neat, and I was trying to get the backstory. I didn't really get to the bottom of it because, again, time just gets away from you out there. But all their dozers, so D8 up to D11, they've still got two 11s. One's in the yard, one's at Rotowaro. But the D10 T2 we've seen at Whitehall, they name them. So each dozer's got its own name on it. So the D10 T2 at Whitehall was Colonel Gaddafi. And we never really got the full answer. It was like, well, we want to, each dozer has its own name and its own operator, and they take really good care of it. And then they're like, just ask the Ross brothers. And we never got caught up with them the other day.
Yes.
But maybe you know a bit of the backstory there?
I don't, but it's certainly, it is quite a thing to, particularly if you've got an operator who's dedicated for a machine, to have that machine named in some way or form or decaled up with some sort of artwork, and it's pretty popular here, which is obviously a little bit different from at home.
And I'd say one thing that really stuck out is it was consistent across the whole trip is the operator cabs are immaculate. People are taking their boots off, they got carpet down, everything's clean, there's no smoking in there, and I was just like, I didn't, have the privilege to sit in some of the seats because I didn't want to get, the cab dirty with my boots, but I just look at it and I was like, wow, these people take such good care of their equipment. So that really stuck out. And then that same D10 T2 is running triple shank rippers. Really don't see that much in Canada, running single shank because it's frozen ground, it's rocky ground. Triple shanks, you're going to start, you're not doing nothing with that. So, and then they're running 3D Trimble earthworks on their D10 T2, which never seen that. I've seen like Cat Terrain. Some mines run that for like really, basic design files, like nothing to like centimeter, millimeter accuracy. But these guys are running 3D Trimble, which is very unique. Like that's an investment in a large tractor like that. So something different. Yeah,
and I suppose something for you to take back home and sort of say, hey, that they're doing this here in New Zealand, and
it makes sense. If like that dozer was the WA900 was for loading 785s, so that was the production side of things, and that tractor was coming in and kind of cleaning up the bench, making it, that was the finished pass. So it makes sense to have it, but again, you don't really see it. It's kind of different.
Yeah, so that sort of covers off the North Island, pretty much, I suppose. What about... I
got to add in one in there. We did, it was kind of a surprise visit. We went to Rotowaro.
Oh, yes.
Bathurst. That place is cool. Like, I suppose, and I can kind of equate this back to Canada. So BC and Alberta. Alberta's pro-mining, BC mines, but a lot of people are anti-mining. They don't mine in mining.
Yes.
I feel like the North Island is a little anti-mining and the South Island is pro-mining, just by what I've seen. But when we went to Rotowaro, so you go through Huntley and there's like a power station there and all that, but you drive up the road, there's no signs. no anything. You get to the gate, there's like this faded sign that says Bathurst, Rotowaro. And there's a gate, and then I was like, is there even a mine here? We go in there, and then the tour guide's like, oh, you see a couple 777s parked up. And I'm like, okay, there's something here. He takes us in. We go around the corner, and it's just like all of a sudden, PC 4000, Liebherr 9400, 9250, 994, and 777s and 789s everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, like, everywhere. So, like, that was cool. That was one of those things, like, you don't know it's there until you're there.
Yes, yeah, and that is the case for a lot of sites here in New Zealand, whether they be forestry or mining, and even a lot of construction sites as well. So,
and that contrast with, we went to Waihi, is that correct? Waihi,
yes.
With CNR. They're doing the tailings dam raise there for Oceana's gold mine, the underground gold mine, and that place is like town mine right there, and
yes,
there's like
is.
tailings facility, farmland all the way around it. So that is the complete opposite. So it was cool to see the two ends of the spectrum there, mining right in the country, like in nowhere, and then mining right in the city.
Yes,
So,
yeah.
town.
There's been issues from time to time around that as well, as you could imagine. But
So
probably a little bit different again, getting down to the South Island and some of the visits that you had. So tell us about those.
So the South Island was cool. We flew into Christchurch and then drove down to Oamaru. And funny story, I still kick myself for this, and my girlfriend as well will laugh when she hears this. So we made the schedule to visit Oceana Gold's Macraes mine on the South Island, which is south of Oamaru, just north of Dunedin there.
Yeah.
And we made the schedule in Canada, so it came up as Monday. I was like, perfect. We'll fly in Saturday, have the day off Sunday, go there Monday. I get here, and then the time difference adjusts it. So then now it's Tuesday. Tuesday was supposed to be a travel day to Westport. You know that drive, right? That's 8 hours.
That's a big drive.
So we did Macraes mine and drove to Westport in the same day.
That's a long day.
But thankfully the daylight was...
you are here at the right time of the year for that, which definitely would have helped you.
But yeah, we did. Macraes was high on the list. You know, that's something that myself, you, and your colleague there, David, worked on. It was something I really wanted to see because that was the finest example I could find of how CAT equipment is truly built to be rebuilt. Because you guys took 789Cs that Macraes had parked for whatever reason. They were kind of high hour. I think they were 60, 70,000 hour trucks. And then in 2022, you took 3 of those and rebuilt them. And, you know, that was probably based on Macraes' mining plan. They wanted some more haulage in their fleet. So partnership between Terra, Caterpillar, and Oceana, you guys took those trucks that as David put it, were an outback wreck. They were just in the boneyard. There was birds living in them. Everything was open to the elements. Components were stripped off to keep the rest of the fleet running. I seen the photos, and I was like, they rebuilt those? Like, there's no way. So it was pretty cool to see that, how you took a truck that was otherwise scrap and turned it into something that Oceana can depend on. They call them the CD crossovers there, and it's cool to see they've got D-Series cabs, D-Series engine and driveline, and then the rest of it's kind of a C-Series and then aftermarket dump bodies. But that was really cool to see. And again, Macraes is one of those mines you don't know it's there until you go there.
Definitely.
Like, you just kind of pull up and you're driving up on this plateau and you're like, hey, where is this place? And you kind of see some dumps, and then you get there and you're like, oh, there's a mine here. So they've got a pretty big footprint. They've got a couple pits to the south, and then they've got their main complex, the Macraes town site, and then they've got the main pit, which they're hauling out of now. But again, you go in and there's like Tashi 3600s. They have the electric 3600 there too, which we got to see. They've got all your trucks there, which are I think those trucks look really good with the aftermarket dump bodies.
Yes.
Like, nothing against Caterpillar and the OEM dump body, but you put those Austin dump bodies on there, they're just a good looking dump body. Like, it really rounds that truck out, I think. So that was really cool to see the work that your team did to get those trucks up to that state, and then to see Oceana, one of New Zealand's largest gold mines, for them to let us in there, and they were pretty excited about it. Like, we ended up getting a tour of the mill and everything too.
Yes.
I don't want to get too far off the tangent, but the mill, like everything in Canada, every mine site, mill, conveyors, everything enclosed. Like, nothing is left to the elements.
Oh, yes.
Go to Macraes,
yes, I suppose with...
it's open.
Yeah.
So that was very shocking to me, and I was like, you guys just like do this all under the sunlight? Like, he's like, yeah, it never freezes here or nothing, really. And I was like, wow, this would never fly in Canada.
No, not in those winters that you have over there. So.
Yeah. So I don't want to talk too much about McRae's, but that was really cool.
I mean, I know that it was definitely a highlight, being able to put that together for you guys and, being able to spend as much time as you did there, and the team was so cooperative with it. So
yeah. They were pretty stoked. So our tour guides were pretty happy to host us. And again, it was big thanks to you guys for helping connect us with those people. So
yeah, and hopefully you got some nice content that you'll be using down the track.
Oh yeah, we'll be got to get it approved, but it'll be out there, and it'll be some good stuff. So concluded our visit to McRae's. Drove to Westport that afternoon. We got it I think at 10:30, so it wasn't too bad. And then the next morning was Stockton. So Stockton was another one high up on the list because it's such a historical area, and that's where those two D575 dozers, one of which is in CNR's museum, the other one's at Brookby Quarry. So Kypra used to own them. That's where those work. So I really wanted to see that, and it's just such a historical area. It's one of those places you don't know it's there until you're there.
Yes.
You drive up on this windy road, and you're like, okay, where are we going? And then you get there, and it's mine, 14 kilometers of mine that way, and it's 7 kilometers wide or something. It's huge. And the coal there is met coal, so coking coal, so steel production. And you guys exported that all. I think it's number 3 or 4 for your exports here.
Yeah, it's up there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but big seams, 7 to 10 meters.
Yeah. And I hear you had a good day as well to visit, because sometimes the weather can be against you when you're over there. But
yeah, we lucked out with the whole visit. The whole trip really was sunny. And then Stockton especially, I was warned that it gets really foggy in there. It'll just sock in. And we did we got a bit of cloud come through and stuff. But we really God was just watching over us and hey, you're going to have a good visit today. So we had a good time. But Stockton was cool. What makes them really unique, and what I've never seen before in North America, is they have a aerial tramway. I equate it to a ski lift for coal.
Yes, yes, they do.
The coal comes out of the pit on Volvo wiggle wagons, goes to the wash plant where it's washed in size, and then it gets loaded onto 777s with oversized coal bodies, and then it goes down part of the mountain, goes and dumps in the tramway, which I think it's 2 tons per tram, and it goes down the mountain on an aerial tramway, like a ski lift, really. So, there's no mine that I know of.
Oh, I was going to say, so you haven't seen that process before anywhere? Never.
No, it's always truck or conveyor. It's never been a ropeway. Aerial ropeway, they called it. So,
it's good that, you've seen a number of things that are, I suppose, pretty innovative, for what we do here in New Zealand with some of those sites. So that's obviously another one.
Yeah, that was good. And that was with, we were up there with Doug Hood. So again, another really cool contractor. Started in Ashburton, actually.
That's right, yes.
Started in agriculture and farming kind of contracting, a bit gray there in what exactly that was. But then they got into mining contracting, and Stockton's their bread and butter. So they've got a big fleet up there, 777s, EX 1900, D9s. They had some 10s and stuff, but again, but that's what's interesting about dozers is you look at, if you put them on a spreadsheet and you look at the cost to run, everyone thinks, just throw a D11 at it, right? Push a lot of material. But you look at the cost to actually run that, and you equate that to a cost per cubic yard or cubic meter of dirt moved. The D9 really fits in there really good. So they're running 2 D9Rs up there, and they're happy with them. They're happy with the CAT product. But that was a cool visit. Again, big thanks to them for having us up there, and that really introduced me, because you could stand and there was 1900 shovel, 777s, and then ocean and beach. And where else can you see that?
Yeah, it's pretty spectacular, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
that was good. Finished up there, and then we went down, stayed in Hokitika, and we spent the next day with Komatsu at White Gold and Birchfields, looking at some placer mining. So we really got a spread. We looked hard rock gold, placer gold, coal on the North Island. So we've got a pretty good spread. And it was cool to see those 1250s swing in, and they got a 475 out there too that they're pretty stoked on. So it was cool to see that. I started in placer mining. That was my roots. I worked in the Yukon for a long time, so it was good to get back to my roots and see some gold. And
yes, that's great.
That kind of, and then we're here. We did the tour of CRC today, and
that's our component rebuild centre here in Christchurch.
Did that, and then here we are. That pretty much wrapped things up.
Yeah, so you're heading back heading back to Canada soon, so it'll be, I suppose, starting to come out of the winter time there soon.
Yeah.
I suppose, have you got some, in terms of the experiences back there, tell us about a little bit about some of those, I suppose, pivoting from New Zealand and what you've been doing here the last couple of weeks to, some of those things that you've been doing over the last, couple of years, mainly up in North America?
Yeah, mainly Canada. We don't do too much in the States. You kind of need to do work visas for that. So I go down once in a while for like Mine Expo or something casual like that. But if you're going to actually do work, you got to kind of, you got to do it legally, right?
Yeah,
you can sneak across once in a while and get a couple photos, but get paid, but you don't want to get in too much trouble. So, I will mention, now I'm thinking of it, when we were at McRae's, the one difference that really stood out, and I've noticed this and I've never got a true answer, but the Aussies and the Kiwis love backhoes. They love their big mining excavators in backhoe configurations.
Yes.
You come to North America, you come to Canada, everything's front shovel. Everything's face shovel. It's just the way we design our pits. Everyone loves the front shovel because you can side load 2 trucks. You got one truck here, the other one's spotting in. For some reason, the Aussies love their backhoes. I think it's like you can get a bit of a better bucket fill. You can be a bit more selective. I don't know. Maybe it's the way they design their mines, but that's one thing that really stuck out. Is everything.
Did you get a bit of an explanation from anyone?
Not entirely. No one really knows. It's just whatever the company specs it as, I guess.
Yeah. Interesting point of difference, though. That's for sure.
Yeah. But anyways, back to your point of what we got going on in Canada. I mean, I kind of float around BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan. That's my core customer base. We do a bit out east, but not too much out that way because it's a bit of a flight. So you're like looking at a day of travel to get out there. So we kind of float around BC, Alberta. A lot of mining there. BC's got gold, underground gold. We got open pit copper. We've got coal. You go to Alberta, we get the oil sands, the 3rd largest resource of oil in the world. We've got natural gas. We've got coal for energy production, so thermal coal. BC's got met coal, which is steel production coal. You go to Saskatchewan, you've got potash, uranium. So you really get a good spread of all the resources out there. So my kind of model is we work with mostly contractors, a few mining companies, but they'll want something for like social media or calendars or a proposal, or they want a video to show clients. They want something, whatever it is, we'll kind of help them with that. But it really gets us out to a good spread of sites. Like I've been in the oil sands, and I don't know if you ever been there.
No, that would be pretty amazing though. So tell us a bit about that.
So the oil sands is one of those places that it's a world-class mining district. So they mine oil in sand. So tens of thousands of years ago, it was an old kind of inland marine lagoon. And then you kind of, over the years, you get the oil out of that. I won't go into the whole geologic deep detail of that because I probably would screw it up, to be honest. But anyways, they have oil on the surface in sand. They also have oil underground. So they mine it in situ with horizontal drilling and steam-assisted gravity drainage, so SAGD. And they also mine it on the surface. And the surface is what you see the big footprint of. So, I mean, oil sands the claim to fame is a 797. So back in 94, the 90s was actually a really good era for Caterpillar. A lot of the 24 came out, the 994, the 797, a lot of those products. But the Syncrude partnered with Caterpillar to build the 797 because at the time they were running like, I think, 777s or 789 or something. And they were like, we need something bigger. So the 797 was developed for the oil sands.
Oh, yes.
And as a kind of auxiliary to that, it's gone all over the world, right? But the 797 was developed for the oil sands, and like you go there, and they have over 450 trucks, 797s in the oil sands. So it's the largest population of 797s in the world. But they'll mine bitumen down to, I think, 75 meters below surface. That's the economics of it. I think that's about the depth. But, I mean, we're talking like my first experience with the oil sands was Syncrude base mine. So there's multiple different mines in the Fort McMurray area. You kind of go Edmonton and Fort McMurray. There's Suncor, Syncrude, CNRL, Imperial. Teck had a venture up there for a while, but that kind of got abolished. So you go there and you just pull into the mine, and it's just this massive like processing plant. Then you go to the mine and you just, again, you peer over the edge, and it's just like rope shovel, haul truck, and you could probably see 150, 200 pieces of equipment.
Wow.
I'm talking like 5 rope shovels, 100 797s and everything. It's just like, it's incredible.
It would be.
They have their own Tim Hortons there. On site, they have their own Tim Hortons. That's how established that mine site is. So It's a very cool area, very high wear. The oil sands itself is the most abrasive material, maybe next to iron ore in the world. You get that sand and you get that oil, it gets an undercarriage, it gets on tires, like it just eats stuff alive. Like a D11 undercarriage will go maybe 2,000 hours. And
wow.
Gotta get, new track, new rails, new rollers. Like it's such a neat place. And it runs 24/7, so day and night.
Yes.
Of course, as you do. And I think we're up to over 3 million barrels a day out of there. So it's a huge part of the Canadian economy. And it's kind of the pinpoint of a lot of scrutiny because with the whole climate thing, but it's a huge part of the economy. And it's cool for me to go in there and try and work angles of, okay, there's the mining process, but how do we show mining in a green light? What is the reclamation story? What are they doing to use technology to lower their carbon footprint, to extract more without moving, all this material and moving all this overburden? So there's a lot of caveats in there that I think the public doesn't really understand.
Yeah, and I suppose it's a really good opportunity for you to be able to, tell that story.
Yeah.
Educate those people that just would have no idea about that, particularly at a site like that.
Yeah, and it means more when it comes from a third party. So say like a oil sands miner put out on their social, like, oh, we do this, we do all this reclamation. That'll be received in one light, but a third party like myself or one of the other content creators comes out and really tries to tell it as it is, in an unbiased, we try to be unbiased way. I think people receive that differently. So I think that circles back to the importance of what we do, is sharing the story of the industry so people can become educated instead of having nothing to look at and forming their own opinions. Because if we just surrender the narrative of mining and construction, then someone's got to share it. People need to learn about how we mine the raw ingredients to make civilization possible.
Yeah, and I mean we I suppose we have a similar issue here in New Zealand. You talked about that pro-mining, anti-mining. Certainly on the West Coast, totally pro-mining.
Oh, yeah, they love it out there. Yeah, it's like Alberta. Yeah, they love mining. So
yeah, I was going to say be as close as you could get to that. But there's a real good educational story to tell people that, it's not just, harmful to the environment. There's all of these really fantastic things that they're doing to help from an environmental standpoint and sustainability standpoint as well. So, and if you can help, educate somebody that maybe their opinion's changed a bit, that's got to be positive for our industry, doesn't it?
Yeah, we had a really good, I'll try to give you a synopsis of all the different sites I've kind of seen there, but Coal Valley is one of my favorites. So that's just west of Edmonton. There are coal mines. They mine thermal coal, export it to global markets, again, for energy production. But they have an approach that they're mining, but they're also reclaiming as they go. So they have some fantastic areas they've reclaimed. They have an old pit they actually turned into a lake, and it has fish in it. So we got some shots of them fishing out there just to kind of show, like, hey, it's not instant. Like, mining isn't like, okay, we mine today, it's reclaimed tomorrow. Like, it takes 10, 20, 30 years to do this stuff. This isn't instant. So it's hard for people to grasp that, to say, like, okay, you're making a big hole in the ground, but when does it look pretty, right? So Coal Valley has a really good example of fine reclamation, and they're really unique. One caveat about Coal Valley is they actually have the longest coal haul in the world. So their site's pretty big. I think it's like 10,000 hectares. But their one pit, which they were mining when we visited, is called the Yellowhead Pit. And that haul from shovel to the plant where it dumps the coal is a little over 60 kilometers round trip.
Oh, wow.
So you're talking a 789 making about an hour-long journey, just driving on this long haul road. But that's what they do, and they make money at it. So it's one of the neat things.
Again, another amazing thing to be able to see that. I mean, there's nothing like that here at all.
Yeah, most people would shake their head at that. Like, as a business case, they'd be like, why are you hauling so far?
Yeah.
But, if you want me to, do you want me to dive into a couple other?
Yeah, I suppose if there's another, particularly maybe favourite project that you've gone and, either maybe worked on or been there and done some content. Yeah, tell us about that.
I'd say probably the coal mines of southern BC. So Teck used to own them, and now it's Glencore. Like, they mine right in the Rockies, like in the mountains.
So you're right up at pretty high altitude.
Yeah. So the way they mine and how they mine the coal, and you can see it. It's all very folded and faulted because of the mountain building, the tectonic events. So they're like, you're looking at coal seams that are doing like this, and they're trying to mine it with a shovel, right? Like, it's very unique. They have such a preserved talent pool of operators out there that are able to mine coal that's not flat lying. You don't just dig it and it's good. Like they're being very selective. How are we going to come in? Are we going to come in on the high wall side, the footwall side? How are we going to get this coal out? Is there any geotechnical hazards? So that's a very technical aspect of mine, and it's a huge footprint. And it's just the location. That's one of the more unique aspects of the Elk Valley. It's just where you are. You're right in the Rockies.
Yeah, it'd be pretty spectacular.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah.
I suppose moving away from projects maybe to some on the machine side of things, and obviously, we're talking Cat machines as the dealer here in New Zealand. Do you have a favourite Cat machine that, you've grown, to like over the years? Is there anything in particular that sort of stands out?
D10.
Yeah.
So before I did any of this, after I got out of school, I went to the Yukon and worked for a company called Earth and Iron. And we were placer mining. So I was doing running equipment and doing drilling and testing and sampling. And it was break time, and I looked over and I was like, oh, you mind if I jump in that 10 for a bit? And it's the Yukon, right? Like, it's not a mine site where you got to be trained and everything. And
yes.
he's like, sure. He hops up. He's like, here's the park brake. There's how you go forward. Go for it. So that's how I learned to run 10, was just by learning on the operator's brake. But that's kind of stuck with me ever since. I've always liked D10. You get so much power in one package. It's such a versatile tractor. You get into like a D11, it's pretty big. It's not as nimble, but a 10, like, you can see it in mining. You can put it in heavy civil. You sometimes see them on construction sites. So I've always liked the 10. I've always liked the power. Always liked the way it feels. I've always just loved track machines, especially the elevated sprocket. They're just a fun tractor. Like, it's just a fun dozer to run. I'd say the D10R or T, the early gen Ts, were the C30, the C27. The turbos sound real good in that. Like, it's just a good sounding machine. It's fun to run. Like, you get a thrill out of it when you get those turbos spool up and you get a full blade and it's just curling over. Yeah, it's a wild ride.
Yeah, sure. That's cool. It's interesting you say that it was sort of, I suppose your formative years in the industry.
Yeah.
Because, we've had other, people on here, well established in the industry, and you sort of ask them, what is your favourite machine? And it does go back generally to one of those first machines that they may have, essentially grown up in.
Yeah.
And learnt to operate. It does go back to that a lot of the time. So, you're not alone there, that's for sure. Yeah. So, and what about, is there any, you talked about a few elements of that D10, and obviously you're dealing with, quite a few other brands as well. What do you is there anything that, some of those other brands do better, like Komatsu or whoever it might be, that, maybe Caterpillar could learn from? Obviously they're doing massive amount of R&D every year, but, is there anything that sort of, from your perspective that you see that, hey, these guys are doing well and, maybe Caterpillar should be doing that as well?
It'd be hard to find one. Cat does a lot of things right. They have the largest dealer network in the world, so they've got the support side of things down. Not all their equipment is great. They're really good at making dozers. They make good haul trucks, excavators, but you look at like a Volvo, they're really good at articulated trucks. They make a good excavator too. You look at Hitachi, they're really good at shovels. Caterpillar, they're still kind of working their way out of the Bucyrus merger early on, but they're getting better. Like, some of their next-gen stuff is nice. I mean, if I was to compare two, you look at the new Dash 8 series from Komatsu, the 375, 475 Dash 8. You look at a D10 or a D11, that's kind of the comparable size. Komatsu's really come a long way with their cabs. They've got the fingertip steering now. They used to have the palm steering, which was, people liked it, but majority people rejected it. So they've come a long way. Their cab is real nice. Like, they've got some really good sight lines down there. What Caterpillar does better, they've got a tag link on their blade. Komatsu doesn't. They've got a K-link, which doesn't. The blade does a little bit of this, so it's not as tight. I mean, they're both really good tractors. Some people argue you can back up a hill better with a low sprocket machine than you can with a high sprocket machine. Is there any truth to that? Depends who you talk to. Is there anything Cat could do better? I mean, I think one thing that stood out to me is when they buy a product line, they seem to just like slap the logo on it and go. So it'd be nice to kind of keep that in-house a bit longer to get a product to where you need to go and then get it out in the field. And I'll draw that back to when they bought Terex or Bucyrus, and they had the MTU series, which is now the 794, 796, 798. Some of those early gen trucks were pretty rough. It was just like the Cat logo on there and they just threw it out there. And it kind of, there's one particular mine in BC that really got kind of bad taste in their mouth from those trucks, and they're now running Komatsus. So it's a hard thing to navigate, because how do you absorb a product line and then have the cat quality to spit it out in a reasonable amount of time, because their business, they got to make money.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can't fault them anywhere, really. The only thing I can fault most manufacturers on is Tier 4 stuff. I mean, that's just the world we live in. That's the restrictions on making things clean for the clean environment. I know in New Zealand it's not Tier 4, which we saw at Hunua. There's a Tier 2 395 there, which is a beautiful thing. No aftermarket. No after.
Yeah, that's very new, isn't it? So just recently delivered.
That's something I've never seen before. I was like, why is there no emissions on this thing? Why does it sound so good? Why is there so much power? But I think that's one thing I can fault most manufacturers on is that emissions technology has a lot of problems, and we see a lot of problems from that in the cold weather. You know, you can't say Caterpillars is any worse than Komatsus or Hitachis, but they really have, you know, some issues with that. If we go into mining class shovels, I will say one thing that Liebherr does real nice, and even some of the Komatsus, is the way they route their hoses on the machines. So you, like this, Mine Expo is a really good chance to get up close to equipment. So you stand on a Cat shovel, you stand on a Liebherr shovel, you look at the way they route their hydraulic hoses and how everything's plumbed on the German machine. So the Liebherr or the Komatsu, beautiful. Everything's like here, everything's got its own place. There's nothing like crossing over. But then you look at some of the Cats and even the Hitachis, and there's like stuff that crosses over, and it's like, why is this over here? And like that kind of seems like it might be hard. And again, that goes back. It's hard for Caterpillar to absorb the Bucyrus line and then caterpillarize it.
Yes.
Right? So it's a bit tough. It's hard to fault them on that. But Liebherr makes a heck of a shovel. They're really popular in Aus. We don't have much in North America. There's a few out there.
Yeah, not many here. So.
Yeah. Oh, there's Rotowaro's got 3, but that's kind of it. So I'd say, the Liebherr shovels, the way everything's plumbed and set up is beautiful versus the Caterpillar. So I think that's something Cat could look at on their big machines is how do we make this, you know, more friendly for the guy who's wrenching on it, right? I can't fault them for anything. You know, I don't know.
Well, that's good to hear. Yeah. That's good to hear. Yeah. And we're starting to see, I suppose, over the last 5-10 years, that a lot more Chinese manufactured machines as well. Have you come across many of them in your travels as well?
They're around. They're around. They're not too popular. They're kind of tough. It's tough for them to beat a deal on, like, if a Finning or a Terra comes in and says, hey, we've got all this support, here's our excavator, the contractor's going to pay the extra $1 for all that back-end support and the Cat name, because they know they get the Cat warranty, they get the support from Terra. Yeah. So it's hard for like a Lugong or an XCMG to do that when they have a smaller dealer network, maybe not the best supply chain. But what you'll find with those Chinese brands or gray market brands, they really succeed when a contractor is like, okay, we want a machine for something basic, a real basic task. We're not, building highways, cut and grade. We're just feeding a wash plant. We're feeding this. We're loading trucks at a fill site. How could we get into 4 excavators for under $1 million? Oh, we could go to XCMG and get into, 4 36, 40-ton excavators for under $1 million. You go to Caterpillar, it's like, okay, well, that's going to be like, 2 or 3, right? And rightfully so. You pay for the name, you pay for the product support. But you'll find a lot of those deals kind of go that way. Because even like we looked at when we were on the West Coast there in Hokitika, there's 3 Lugongs where the Komatsu customer said, like, they're just feeding plant. We don't want something fancy, just cab that's comfy and it just does this all day, back and forth. So they went to Lugong. So, I mean, Komatsu can't drop their numbers anymore. They're just going to lose money on a deal that, why would you do that? Right? So that's where I see those brands coming in. They're trying. XCMG, I think, has mining class equipment. They've got like big haul trucks and excavators, but again, they're popular in different regions of the world. The North American market's very like entrenched in the Hitachi, the Komatsu, the Caterpillar. It's hard to break that. Liebherr has a different business model than Caterpillar. Caterpillar has the dealers, the franchise dealers. Liebherr has got a factory direct. So you go there, you buy from the factory. There's no like middleman. Yes. You deal with Liebherr, right? So a bit different. I'm not sure how the XCMGs and stuff work and the Lugongs, but some people like them. Some people have success with them. Again, it comes down to numbers. What's going to work for your business? Is it going to be a 352 or is it going to be a Lugong 950 or whatever they got there? So nothing against them. I mean, they're trying. So.
Oh, that's interesting perspective there. So that's great, Mac. Thanks. I suppose I wanted to get in as we sort of start to move towards the end of our session. Obviously, you started off, working in the industry, and now you're doing a lot of content creation. Tell us, was there anything about sort of, was that a sort of something that you decided you wanted to move to, or did that just happen over a matter of time, or was it sort of right place, right time to be able to start doing that?
I mean, I'd have to tally up probably 5 years ago now. Just started posting stuff on social media. I've always taken photos and, you keep them on a hard drive, but like, what good is that for me to flick through them on a Friday night, just kind of looking like, oh, that was a cool memory, right? So I started sharing stuff, and it was the early days of Instagram, back in the day when photos ruled. I would post a video of a D11, you maybe get like 500 views, but you post the exact same thing but a photo, you get like, 500,000 impressions or whatever it was.
Yes.
So it was the early days of Instagram, was when that community was really developing. And Instagram over the years, and LinkedIn, has really been a tight community of good people, good, really good dirt community. So that's always been my core audience. But it started on Instagram. We're just sharing photos, and then I had one contractor locals like, hey, could you come take some? We'll pay you. And I was like, oh, I'll come do it for free. I like equipment. But I was like, yeah, sure, I'll take your money. And then it started from there. Just one contractor offered me some money, and I set up a little company. And for the first 2 years, didn't really make much because you're buying gear. You're trying to do free work so you can have a portfolio. You're trying to get your name out there. But it just started with taking photos and just, honestly, just a passion for the industry. It's hard to replace passion. Anyone can take a photo. Like, you could go hire another photographer against me. They might get similar photos, but it's the way we craft a story around that. That's what really separates a lot of us. So yeah, just started with a couple photos, and then started doing video and getting the drones, and started reaching out to contractors here, and started being like, okay, who do we want to work with? Who's got a, who could really use some storytelling? And that's kind of how it really spiraled, was just sharing photos and just staying true to a real deep-rooted passion for the industry. Because I think on a real foundational level, people are just curious. They want to know, like, who's doing what this project? What equipment are they using? How are they moving the dirt? What technology are they using? Who's the people out there doing it? Oh, that's my friend. That's my brother. Or like, I know him. Or that's what it comes down to. So.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, we were probably one of the first adapters or early adopters of Facebook and Instagram within our industry as a supplier, and it's just grown and grown and grown. And people out there in the industry love seeing machines going out, working in projects. A new machine to a new contractor, and it is a real community, and it's very, very cool to sort of see all of these people come around and, I suppose, support a contractor who's grown over that time and added machines, and they see they get another one, and it's just a very, very cool way to be able to engage with that community, the dirt community, I should call it, out there.
Yeah. So it's just always been part of that. There's a couple of us out there that do it, and people just enjoy it.
So no real secrets. It's just like finding decent people to talk about and take photos of and video of, and I suppose continuing to create that content.
Yeah, I mean, contractors bring us out for a specific reason, but there's sometimes where I'll come out, like this whole trip has just been on my own, like on my own dime, right? But it's because I'm interested. I want to see, what is CNR doing here? What equipment are they using? What is McRae's doing? Like, it's all based on interest. So not everything may be paid, but it all kind of works out in the end because you're contributing to the community, and you're really that's what really also sparked me to do this. Apart from the family background, my dad and grandpa worked for Finning Cat for so long. That's kind of what trying to continue the Plovie name.
Yeah, so there's a bit of alignment there with Cat, which is good.
Yeah. So I bleed yellow if you cut me. Don't tell that to Hitachi or Komatsu or anything like that. But it's really just preserving moments in time, because you look at, like, take Stockton, for example, when those D575s were out there, there's not many photos of when they were. So a lot of these projects I visit may be a highway project that's going to be done soon, or a mine that's going to be in closure soon. Like, things come and go, equipment gets tired, it gets retired, people come and go. So you're just, on a basic level, you're just preserving things in time. And I think my life's work may eventually be deduced down to just a book on a coffee table. There'll always be the stuff on social media, but I think for me, putting together a nice book that shows, like, New Zealand mining, Canadian, North American, Australia, Europe, like something that people could be like, wow, that's cool. Remember those days when we used to mine at McRae's? Or remember those days when the Canadian oil sands were we're this big, and like it's everything changes. Everything's dynamic, so it's preserving moments in time. That's all it really is.
Yeah, it's great to hear that. And I suppose 2025, just at the start of the year, you go back home, get into the springtime up there. What's sort of the plan for the next while for you at Earthmovers Media?
A lot of content to edit from this trip. I mean, I've been throwing everything on hard drives. I haven't had time to sit down, but we'll start with that. But we've got some projects in the oil sands with a company called Heavy Metal Equipment. So we're up there doing some interviews with their people for hiring campaigns, and then they also like to get footage of their equipment on site. Then from that, I think we got to go out to maybe Malarctic Mine, which is Agnico Eagle. We got once the real thaw comes, a lot of the dirt moving contractors will pick up. So highway jobs, tailings dam builds, that sort of stuff. So you kind of get a sense at this time of year, you kind of get a sense of what you're going to be doing for the year, and a couple projects line up, but it all usually comes in like a week or two where it's like this, and then you just start building a schedule from there. It's kind of last minute sometimes. You just go with the flow. Like
I know all about that.
Yeah,
so
it is what it is. Sometimes it's busy, sometimes it's late. Sometimes the phone don't ring, and sometimes the phone rings so much you're just like, I can't handle this. This is too much. So it varies. But we got hopefully lots on the books for the year. I know down here there's a bit of a slump right now in the construction industry. Mining seems still pretty strong. Forestry,
mining's pretty good. So hoping for some improvement as we work through the year, which I think there's some optimism out there about that, which is great. So.
Yeah, but in Canada, I mean, everything's going strong. We got lots of government-funded infrastructure, highway upgrades. Mining's still like ticking along. Gold price is up. Oil price is good. Everything's advancing. We're building a new mine in BC, Blackwater. There's a couple other projects here and there, but things for us are good. We're looking up. We're I wouldn't say coming out of a recession, but we're definitely on the upward trend right now.
Oh, good to hear. Good to hear. And any further visits a bit further afield planned at this stage, or just work through this New Zealand one and plan something later?
Well, my goal, now that I've done this, it's really opened my eyes to what's out there. You kind of get, comfortable in your own backyard, so to speak. So I like being in Canada and really working my region, so to speak. But I really now I think I'm going to do a new continent every year. So now we're thinking next year is Australia. I've had a few people reach out. Oh, you should come over. And it's like, well, I don't have time, and I'm not going to come over for one thing. So we may as well put a trip together. But I think we'll do a new continent or country every year, and just to learn something new, to experience something different. I think perspective is valuable in life, and you can't just get honed in your little backyard and kind of nothing else is out there. This is the best way to do it. Right, so I think it's valuable to travel and learn, and you get a bit of, I call it bleisure, business leisure, so a bit of business leisure travel. And apart from that, I got one trip to the States to see a 5130, that's a demolition machine. That's cool. That's with BCS Demolitions. It's got that 5130, which is a mining class excavator turned into a demolition machine.
Oh, wow.
Which is super cool.
Yeah.
And then probably back out West Virginia once to see a equipment rental company in the West Virginia coal fields. That place is, I don't want to go too far off a tangent, but West Virginia is like Canadian mining, North American mining, all the safety and all this and new equipment and everything's got to be this. You go to West Virginia, it's like a time capsule of old haul trucks, old dozers, people wearing just like shorts and hats on site. It's so unique. There's such a preserved talent pool there, and like those guys who went to the one site, they'll like rebuild a D11R right in the middle of the haul road. Like it'll break down, they'll be like, oh, new engine in it.
Oh, wow. Well, it sounds like 2025 is going to be another fun year for you. Mack, I'd really like to thank you for coming on Breaking Ground. It's been great chatting with you. Just do a bit of a shout out to your Insta site is
Earthmovers Media. So at Earthmovers_media. LinkedIn, it's just my name, Mack Plovie. Find me there. And then Facebook is the same, Earthmovers Media. And we're slowly building the YouTube out with all the content from this trip. So that's another arm of, we're trying to get into reaching more people and sharing more stories and not just vertical format. So YouTube's the same thing, Earthmovers Media. You can find me there and follow along. Hopefully you learn something, you get a laugh, whatever it may be. And feel free to shoot me a message. I'm always checking those and trying to get back to people because, people are what make all this possible. Talking and building relationships, that's been the core of what I do for so long. So always happy to chat.
Yeah, sounds good. And we'll look forward to sharing some of that content through our platforms here in New Zealand as well with Terra. So great having you. Safe travels home. suppose for our listeners, as always, we'd love to have your feedback. Give Breaking Ground a like on Facebook or Insta. Get in touch with us, send us a message through any of our TerraCat social media channels. And, please keep an eye on our TerraCat Facebook page for details about the next episode of Breaking Ground. We'll catch you next time. Thanks, Mack.
Thanks for having me.